It's time!
What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by Tom. Tom, how are you tonight, bro?
I'm doing great, Keith. We had a hiatus. We had a rare week off for the UFC as my dog walks behind us, trying to bury that bone of his. Rare week off for the UFC, but I'm excited. We got a really, really good card. It's a really strong card leading us right into UFC 269. I'm excited to get talking. How you doing, Keith?
Oh, I'm doing great. Chance at this point is like our third, host. He's a regular appearance on the show. I think at some point in the future, because there are talks of Nick Diaz being released by the UFC, leaving the UFC. I think maybe the next logo should be Chance picking his nose. But that's a topic for another day. Before we do jump into this great fight night card, I personally really like it. Make sure that all you kind people at home that are watching this video, like, subscribe, comment down below. We're not seeing enough of those comments. I think on the last video I said, if everybody comments, I'll shave my beard. Nobody commented to shave my beard. Now, I did trim my beard because I was starting to look like a vagrant. But guys, comment. Let us know what you think. I want to see what you guys think. So we're going to jump into this UFC Fight Night card. It is, what is it? UFC Fight Night. Which number?
I want to say 44.
Oh, yeah, it is 44. Yep. And the main
really?
event, I believe you're correct.
Cool.
Hey, we could be wrong. I mean, at this point, these numbers don't even mean shit. So,
well, and here's the other thing too, is on half the cards in the marketing material that the UFC has put out, it doesn't even say the numbers on them. So like, how do they expect people to keep track of it? I guess they're just going by font versus Aldo, and they kind of dropped the number nomenclature now.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is at this point. Going back to like the old school UFC way of doing it, where like you look back at the old history books and it would just be UFC Fight Night, name versus name. So we'll roll with that for this one. It's Jose Aldo versus Rob Font. It's the number 4 and the number 5 bantamweight contenders, which, I mean, that main event is going to be electric. But we're going to start, as always, with our prelim locks. So I'm going to kick it off with my first prelim lock, and that would be Alex Morono over Mickey Gall. Listen, Alex Morono is a guy that I've actually picked against before. For starters, I picked against him when he fought Cowboy. And that was, at the time you go back and he took that fight on short notice, Alex Morono. And I think I had a little bit of a Cowboy bias going into that one. Who doesn't? Every time Cowboy goes up to fight, you're like, Donald Cerrone, that guy, there's a chance. There's a chance he pulls out a win here. But Alex Morono completely dominated. And that was with no camp whatsoever. Now we're seeing Alex Morono come in with a full camp against Mickey Gall. And Alex Morono is a really complete fighter. He can do it all. He's been in some matches where he's been on the ground rolling around with guys that, they're really proficient at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or wrestling, and he's in there with them. He's actually dominated some guys in the BJJ. And then, he's beaten guys standing up too, like Cowboy. So Alex Morono he's definitely an up-and-comer. But a veteran at the same time. And he's got a chin on him. And the only way that I could really see Mickey Gall beating Alex Morono is by knocking him out. You have to have one punch KO power to really knock out Alex, to beat Alex Morono. And Mickey Gall's not that guy. We saw Chaos Williams. He has that type of power. Mickey Gall does not. I definitely like Alex Morono as my first prelim lock tonight because he's a more complete fighter. And he's going to dominate Mickey Gall, probably win this fight by decision. So what do you think about that one, Tom?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking back at Mickey Gall's his wins, George Sullivan, not in the UFC. Talim Talahari, not in the UFC. Jordan Williams, is he in the UFC anymore?
Yeah, he just got knocked out by Ian Gary.
Exactly. Ian Gary's not that great himself. So, I mean, again, and losses to Randy Brown. He's got a win over Sage Norcutt, again, not in the UFC anymore. He has a win over CM Punk, not in the UFC. Holy shit, I didn't realize how bad this actually got. Listen, I like Mickey Gall. I want to like Mickey Gall. I want Mickey Gall to be good, kind of from that New York, New Jersey area. But at the end of the day, just not it hasn't amounted to anything. Alex Morono, he has good wins, and recently, like you said, I think Alex Morono is just going to kind of dominate him. I think he's going to win it. Maybe Mickey Gall will be able to withstand that first round, but I think as we get in the later round, the second round, the third round, Alex Morono is really going to put him on there. I would definitely take him to win this one.
Yeah, one of the losses for Alex Morono that, real quick really stands out for me is against Anthony Pettis, where, he really put up a good fight against Anthony Pettis, who is, a UFC legend, so to speak. So, and that was when Alex Morono was really just starting to come up in, as a fan, not a household name, but someone more recognizable. So he's got some great wins, a lot of decisions. He has a couple of KO. Yeah, just that most recent TKO is over Cowboy. Other than that, big decision guy. So personal favorite prop for me this weekend would be Alex Morono beating Mickey Gall by decision. Do you have any other prelim locks for us, Tom?
Yeah, I do. In the very next fight, pending any potential shakeups by the UFC, we have Azmat Murzakanov. Chance, relax, buddy. We have Chance Murzakanov. Hope I'm saying that right. Versus Jared Vanderaa. Jared Vanderaa is stepping in here after Felipe Lins withdrew. Azmat Murzakanov is pretty good. In the UFC, he is he got his first win off the Dana White Contender Series, and he is undefeated so far, fighting out of New Jersey. So I have to give some props there. But his background, as you could tell by his name, is Russian. And something I don't tend to do too often is to pick against Russian guys when it comes to fighting. And Jared Vanderaa is just really not that good. And I'm really picking this more against Jared Vanderaa than Azmat. Jared Vanderaa, in his last few, we see him have losses to Sergey Spivak and Alexander Romanov both. So at the end of the day, I'm just going to go with Azmat Murzakanov. I think there's a really strong chance that he takes this. I don't think Jared Vanderaa, we're going to see him in the UFC for too much longer. At 35 years old, Azamat's really going to try and make a staple for himself in the UFC, get one of those UFC kind of latecomers at, the 205 pounds. He could potentially go up to, heavyweight later on in his career, but standing at only 5'10", that becomes that jump to heavyweight gets a lot more difficult. So he's going to want to make a push now, and I think he's going to do it against Jared Vanderaa.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, this fight was actually scheduled for Felipe Lins instead of Jared Vanderaa. And I'm not sure exactly why, but Jared Vanderaa took this fight. No camp, it was originally supposed to be a light heavyweight fight. So, I don't want to butcher his name. I'm just going to say your guy. I'm not really, if you've been watching this for a while, you know that I'm bad with, the more Eastern European pronunciations and names. So listen, Jared Vanderaa, he's a normal heavyweight. Your guy does not have to cut any weight going into this one, because, he's typically a light heavyweight, and, no camp for Jared Vanderaa. And like you said, he's just Jared Vanderaa. Like, his record speaks for itself and the guys that he's lost to. So I'm going to roll with you on this one as well. I've got another lock for you, and it's another Eastern European name. Duško Todorovic. Sorry, Duško. Tudorovic. And I'm saying Duško, right?
I don't know if it's Duško or Duško, but
yeah, the little accent marks. The little accent marks really mess me up. I'm gonna have to take some sort of Eastern European language class at some point in my life at the local community college. But I really like Duško in this one. He has 2 professional losses now at this point. But in his last one against Gregory Rodriguez, which came by unanimous decision, he still looked really good. He definitely looks like a UFC caliber guy. I don't know if maybe I like him because, he's got that bald head and a similar stature to Sean Strickland. And hey, listen, I like Sean Strickland. Maybe you love him, maybe you hate him, but I'm a Sean Strickland guy. But anyways, he's a good stand-up fighter, and he really puts on, entertaining fights every time you see him. And I don't know, I'm rolling with Duško here because it's going to be an even competition, or at least look pretty even between him and Maki Pitolo. Oh, man, I'm sorry, guys. But it's going to be pretty even. It's going to look even for a while there. But the biggest thing about Dushko is that he has KO power, and I think he's going to use that this week. He had a couple of good shots on Gregory Rodriguez, and Pitolo. He's a newer guy, more of an up and comer, but he's also lost 4 of his last 5, and Dushko is 10-2 right now with his first 2 professional losses coming over his last 2 fights to some pretty solid competition. So I'm rolling with Dushko here. I like the pick, and I think he could win by a knockout. It's definitely a strong possibility in this one. So I'm rolling with Dushko.
Okay. I like that pick. I don't know if I'm going to tell you on that one. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm with you. Let's go to Todorovic over Maki Pitolo. Yeah, I feel good for all the reasons you said previously. There's a couple other really, really good fights to watch. Jake Matthews, Jeremiah Wells, Zaglas Zumagulov versus Manel Cape. Brendan Allen, Chris Curtis. We just saw Chris Curtis, a couple weeks ago taking another fight on fairly short notice. Is that on the main card there, Keith?
I'm sorry, which one did you say?
Chris Curtis.
I have him on the main card on Tapology.
Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, what do you say we get to the main card?
Yeah, I do have one more fight to watch, and it's more so just looking at pictures here. Mallory Martin versus Cheyenne Vlismas. That's definitely one that I'll be in front of the television for. But yeah, like Tom said, we're going to move on up to the main card. So first we've got Brian Barbarena versus Darian Weeks. I'm going to let you kick this one off. What do you think?
I actually don't think that fight I don't think that's happening. I don't see it on the UFC site or the UFC stats.
Oh, okay. I see it on Tapology, but this may be one of those times that Tapology is incorrect. So you have Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis as the opener here?
Was that fight announced?
I
can Google
as
it.
As far as I know, I don't know. I have it up here, but it's weird. There's no predictions on Tapology.
1 hour, as of 1 hour ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's replacing Matt Brown.
Darian Weeks is?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so, because he's relatively new to
this will be his first UFC fight.
Well, since we don't have too much, I personally don't have a lot to talk about him, and this is a brand new fight added to the card. I'm feeling a little bit ballsy, and I'm just going to roll with Darian Weeks, because we've seen in the past that when they pull these guys up off the street, that are, relative like no names and, have very low records, sometimes they come out and impress people. And Darian Weeks is 5-0 with 5 professional fights. So I don't know. You know what? I'm going to take him straight and not put him in any parlays just in case he's not really very good at all. But yeah, I'm just going to roll with him here and hope that the new guy impresses us. I have no other points besides that whatsoever.
In that case, I'll go with Bam Bam Barbarena. Fun name. Looking at Darian Weeks' last 5 opponents, this is his first UFC fight. His last fight was 9 months ago against the guy who's 3-4 in the LFA. Then he's going to win a year and a month ago. Guy's 8-3, Dustin Parrish. Then fought a guy in his 3rd professional fight. He fought a 2-0 guy. Fought an 0-0 guy in his 2nd fight. A 2-0 guy in his 1st fight. Listen, at the end of the day, this guy is very, very green in mixed martial arts. And for those reasons, I think it's really, really early for him to jump to the UFC. He is 28 years old, so I wonder if he's going to try and maybe earn his chops in the UFC. We'll see what happens. Stepping in late though, I don't know if is a great is the entrance to the UFC that you're going to want. And Barbarena has been in there against, some of the best, Vicente Luque, he's been in there, in the UFC for a good period of time here. He's 32, kind of in his prime, or maybe leaving his prime. He's going to be the taller man too. Probably, he might have a reach advantage as well. For those reasons, he's more experienced in the UFC. He's more experienced in MMA. I'm going with Bam Bam Barbarena.
Okay. Hey, fair enough. How about that? People at home for a impromptu little picking session right there. And look at that. We still managed to split and come up with different people. I'm hoping that, Darian Weeks impresses us, in a way that Chris Mutino did, getting signed out of nowhere, but actually comes out with a win on top of that one. Everybody was like, wow, after Chris Mutino fought Sean O'Malley, but I would like an actual big wow out of Darian Weeks after now just picking him. Mm-hmm. So next up, we've got a fight that we actually know a bit more about and wasn't just announced an hour before we filmed. We have Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis. I'm going to go with an unpopular pick here, but I'm actually going to pick the King of Combat, I believe his nickname is. Chris Curtis. Oh, no, the Action Man. The King of Combat is his Instagram handle. I'm going with Chris Curtis here. I was actually just really impressed by his knockout over Phil Hawes. And, I like these new up-and-comers. This is a guy he's very, very hungry. After his win over Phil Hawes, he was basically begging for more money. And he didn't really take a lot of damage in that fight. It was a first-round knockout. And so, this is clearly a young, hungry guy. He held 2 belts over at, I think it was ONE FC. And, he's a guy that I like so far. And this is more of a biased pick. It's not like I don't like Brendan Allen at all. But, and I think that Brendan Allen is probably the more realistic option. But I'm going to go with the dog money here. Go with the guy who's coming off of a hot knockout just a few weeks ago, back at UFC 268. And a guy who's super hungry for money and, potentially some gold down the line. I don't know. I like his activity. So what do you think about that? I'm sure you're rolling with Brendan Allen here.
Yeah, I am going with Brendan Allen, and he's fought better competition. He's fought at the highest level. He's younger and entering his prime versus Chris Curtis, who is on probably the tail end of his prime. Brendan Allen's going to be a little bit taller of a guy here, so not that height really plays too much of a difference. They're going to end up having about the same reach, but Brendan Allen trains at a Sanford MMA. His only loss in his last 5 is against John Strickland, who is, fighting towards the top of the division. So I think, wins over Carl Robertson, wins over guys like Kyle Dawkins, Tom Breese, who that's a win that's aged very, very well for Brendan Allen. He's one of the better guys in the division. He's, I think you could still label him up and coming. Again, he's going to be 26 years old at the time of the fight. I like Brendan Allen. I think Chris Curtis, he's not a giant knockout artist. He has, knocked out guys before, but those were guys. I mean, Phil Hawes has, one of the weakest chins in the UFC. So I don't think that a knockout over Phil Hawes is telling me a ton. And he also didn't look good in that fight, but, granted, we probably underestimated Chris Curtis coming into the UFC, but I think Brendan Allen is a significant step up in competition here, and I think he is going to take the victory.
Yeah, this definitely could be recency bias for me. But more than anything, I like Chris Curtis's hunger, and if you want money that badly, as much as he was begging for the performance bonuses and everything, and he's coming back so soon after not a lot of damage, I do think that fares well for him. In terms of the future of his career. So next up, we've got Clay Guida versus Leonardo Santos. And this is a battle of just 2 old dogs at this point. Now, listen, it's tough to pick against Clay Guida because before I even knew anything about the UFC and I would just play the video games, I picked Clay Guida because he looked cool. And, he has a personality. He's definitely a mainstay in the UFC, but he's lost 3 of his last 5. And I'm wondering if it's almost time for them to say farewell to Clay Guida. But what do you think about this one? Because I'm kind of torn on it, honestly.
Yeah, this is a tough one to pick here. I think, Tapology, 74% of the voters are on Santos. He is a minus 190 favorite as of right now. But he's going to be, almost 42 years old when he enters the fight, and Clay Guida's 39. We've seen him we've seen Clay Guida go through some wars. And then, you have Leonardo Santos in his last fight out, losing to Grant Dawson. Now, it's not like Grant Dawson is, anybody to scoff at. He is a very good up and comer in his own right. But, coming off of a loss, being 41, going on 42 years old, it is a little risky. You don't know, because these guys, you don't know what they can do one fight to another, especially when you lose by hammer fists, really, really at the tail end of that fight. Took a lot of damage. You don't know what that's going to end up looking like. And for Clay Guida, he's been taking damage and kind of coming out and just being crazy his normal self for so long that we almost know what we're going to expect. But like you said, he's lost 1, 2, 3, 4 of his last 5 here, with only a win coming over Michael Johnson. But I don't think Leonardo Santos has the knockout power to put away Clay Guida. And I think Clay Guida is going to go, kind of deeper into the fight. And I think Santos is going to have a little bit of a gas tank issue. He's been off for a little bit. He's been off for, almost for 9 months now after that loss, probably a lot of it medically mandated. But I think, he is going to have a 75-inch reach advantage, which makes this a very difficult fight to call. But I think ultimately Clay Guida is going to get in there, and I think he's going to be able to outlast Leonardo Santos. And I think Clay Guida surprises us and gets a win here late in his career.
I'll roll with you on the Clay Guida pick, because I do have a hard time picking against him, and I do agree with everything that you said. The thing I agree with the most is that these guys are old, and you never really know what to expect from a guy that's, like guys that are basically 40 and 42 at this point in their career. So I'm going to roll with you on Clay Guida on this one, just so that if you get it right, we're both right. And if you get it wrong, well, it's whatever. I take the L there too, but it's not like I'm taking an L that you aren't taking, because guys, we are competitive. We do compare our records. Jesus, why couldn't I get that word out? So next up, we've got Rafael Fiziev versus Brad Riddell.
Let's back up one. I think we skipped Jimmy Crute and John Mahal Hill.
Oh, you're 100% correct. Jimmy Crute and John Mahal Hill. John Mahal. I've heard people say it both ways, but I like John Mahal. It's way more fun.
100%.
This is a battle of two guys that really took like shitty injuries in their last fights. Jimmy Crute was fighting against, who was it when his leg basically just, Anthony Smith. Yeah, Lionheart. Yeah, that was awful. That was horrible to watch. And then John Mahal Hill was fighting Paul Craig when
his arm.
Yeah, Paul Craig just snapped his arm right out. So like these are two guys that are coming off of like, pretty shitty, like almost like perfect for the other fighter. Like Anthony Smith's kick was perfectly placed, and Paul Craig's I think that was a Kimura. I got to go back and watch that again, but whatever it was, it just popped John Mahal Hill's arm right out. And so they were just perfectly placed, like, on the joint type of spots, like one submission, one kick. And so I think it's interesting that they're matching these guys up against each other after those like freak moments that they had. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to roll with Jimmy Crute here. And it's mostly just because of Jimmy Crute's toughness and his stand-up game. If he's not getting kicked in the leg in that perfect spot again, I think he just walks John Mahal Hill down for the entire fight and just lands shots all over his body, all over his face. Uses like that strong stand-up game that he has, and just takes it right to him. And then, speaking on Jimmy Crute's toughness, that leg was out, and he was still like beating Anthony Smith on the ground in that first round. He was still all over him. So his ground game, it's not too bad either. But more than anything, Jimmy Crute's toughness is what speaks out to me as a fighter. And
he was ready to go in there in the second round with his foot still not working.
Oh, he was begging. And
remember, he was like banging his chest and banging, like he was you want to talk about a brute? You want to? I mean, yeah, it was fucking aggressive, and I loved it. And to your point, the guy that we were talking about, who John Mahal Hill had his arm popped by because he had really good ground game, guy by the name of Paul Craig. Yeah, well, Paul Craig has a loss via Kimura in the third round to Jimmy Crute. So Jimmy Crute manhandled the guy who manhandled John Mahal Hill.
Oh,
So,
this is a lock. This is a
so
lock for Jimmy
I feel
Crute.
I really like Jimmy Crute. I mean, again, popped his elbow out and he comes back. I don't know what the timetable for return is, but 5 months just feels early. Maybe
Yeah.
because these past 5 months have sped by. Jimmy Crute, the drop foot. We've seen, people have the drop foot and kind of come back. It's just kind of a nerve thing. Um, I don't think
Yeah,
that
it's
that's
just a freak
a
thing.
too big of a timetable to come back. But popping it out, healing right. I don't know. It feels early. It's probably not, but yeah, I think Jimmy Crute is just there's levels to this, and we talk about it. I think Jimmy Crute is one or two above John Mahal Hill at this point. He's the younger guy. I think they want Jimmy Crute to get back in the win column because they know that he probably beats Anthony Smith 7 out of 10 times.
Oh, absolutely. That was a freak thing that happened to him. I mean, perfectly placed kick, but
Well, no, here's the thing. It's yeah, perfectly placed kick. I hate when people say, "Oh, that's a," and no offense, but or I'm not directly digging at you, but when people go, "Oh, that was a freak thing," well, especially for that thing, it wasn't a freak thing. It was a perfectly placed leg kick, and it caught him right in the leg, and it causes a drop foot. And when you hit the leg precisely correct, your big toe goes into the nerve kind of behind your knee. I believe that's what it is, and it drops your whole foot down. It's not just a freak thing or luck. It's a perfectly placed kick. We see it when that happens all the time. When Conor McGregor's leg snap just out of nowhere, he's standing and all of a sudden it just gives out. That I would say is more of a freak thing, right? Because it's working and all of a sudden it just gives out, right? It's not
yeah.
like anything. I mean, you could say Dustin Poirier check the kick all you want, but it's not like if it was directly because of Dustin Poirier, it would have broken on impact with the check, you know?
Right.
Now,
Right.
if it doesn't break on impact and it happens later, it's not 100% due to Dustin Poirier. It would be due to, whatever was sustained, and he may have been a large impact to it, but it wasn't 100% from him. The drop foot, 100%, it wouldn't have occurred had he not get kicked by it, or in any situation, whoever's doing the kicking, the opponent wouldn't have gotten the drop foot if it wasn't a perfectly executed kick. So it's not a freak thing. Jimmy Crute should have checked the kick better. And that's
Yes.
really what it boils down to.
Let me
But
clarify then. I'm not saying it's a freak thing. It was a freakishly accurate kick for Anthony Smith, especially because
yeah,
yeah,
credit to Anthony Smith. But
right.
if he doesn't land that perfect kick, I think Jimmy Crute wins that fight 7 out of 10 times. And
If they
maybe
would have
that's
let him
one of
keep
the three that Anthony Smith wins.
if they would have let him keep fighting, he absolutely would have won. And
Would have won, yeah.
yeah, and so like the thing that I was saying about toughness though is Jimmy Crute wanted to keep fighting after that and was willing to spend, probably the next 10 minutes on his back or starting on his back and fight Anthony Smith from there. John Mahal Hill, the elbow snapped, and I know that that's more of an injury than, a regularly fight sustained
either,
thing.
though. John Mahal Hill didn't give up either. I mean, he was in a pretty compromised position. And remember, it snapped, and I think he kept fighting with it a little bit. It was flailing around. He's like, because the ref didn't stop. Remember, it was that really, really old ref. And it was flailing around, and he just was like, okay, I guess I'll keep fighting. And he just started throwing lefts or, rights if it was his left hand. So, I mean, if we're going to give credit to Jimmy Crute, we got to give it to John Mahal Hill.
Well, either way, I'm taking Jimmy Crute here because, like you said, there's levels to this. Jimmy Crute, in my opinion, still is infinitely tougher than John Mahal Hill. He's been in more wars, and he's that guy to walk people down, and he'll take him at any level. So I'm going with Jimmy Crute here. Like I said, John Mahal Hill, maybe he'll put up a fight, but I have a feeling that this is going to be finished by Jimmy Crute.
Okay. Well, moving on, our co-main event, and this is a good one too. Brad Riddell, Quake versus Adamant Rafael Fiziev. What do you think, Keith?
Well, I think that between this and the actual main event, they're probably two of the hardest fights that I've had to pick, like the entire time that we've been doing these videos. But, and I don't know if it's recency bias or what, because that battle with, I think it was Bobby Green, I'm going with Rafael Fiziev here. I mean, it's really tough because this fight could go either way. The people of Tapology are split 47% to 53% between these two guys. I don't think it's going to be finished because of how tough they both are. But it's going to be one of the most entertaining fights of the year. And, it's minus 115 for Rafael Fiziev and minus 105 for Brad Riddell. This is a true pick'em fight. You know, these guys are incredible stand-up fighters. It could end with somebody just getting chinned, or it could, I mean, more than likely it's going to go to decision because of how skilled they are with, you know, counters, dodging, throwing strikes. So I'm having a really hard time picking here. You could basically flip a coin to figure out who's going to win this one. I'm going to go with Rafael Fiziev, though. I don't know if it's recency bias because of that fight with Bobby Green, which was one of the most entertaining fights of the year so far. You know, another absolute war. And I don't know. I'm going with Rafael Fiziev here. Brad Riddell, he could win it. I mean, either of these
Of course,
guys,
he
but
could win it. He's fighting. Anyone could win it.
yeah, no, I know,
But he
this
will win it, and I'll tell you why. Number one, he's
Okay.
fighting at the City Kickboxing, and I'm going to keep picking with them until they lose. And even when they lose, I'm going to keep picking with them while the iron's hot. You can lose one, but the gym still be hot. So that's number one. Number two is these guys have almost the exact same measurables, but
Right.
Brad Riddell has never been knocked out before. We've seen Rafael Fiziev. We've seen him get knocked out by Magomed Mustafayev. It's not like that's a bad loss, but at the end of the day, he did get knocked out. Brad Riddell has not, and Brad Riddell went back and forth with Drew Dober, and Drew Dober has one of the best chins in the game. And by the way, Brad Riddell has a win over a better Magomed Mustafayev more recently. I think at the end of the day, Brad Riddell, both of these guys are really, really good stand-up guys, and we're going to be witnessing a really, really good stand-up fight. You know, both of them products of Tiger Muay Thai as well,
Right.
fighting out of fuck it, Thailand, and I just did that because I wanted to say fuck it. But at the end of the day, I think Brad Riddell is just a little bit better. I think he has the ability to not get knocked out here. I think that might be the difference maker. I think he trains at a little bit. He has that rub, if you will, from the Israel Adesanyas of the world and the Alexander Volkanovskis of the world. So I'm going with Brad Riddell here.
You know, talking about he's got that maybe New Zealand type of rub, sure, but Rafael Fiziev is from Kyrgyzstan, I believe. So come on, you got that Eastern European rub as well, right there. You know, he wears a fuzzy hat.
Here's the thing, though. Rafael Fiziev in that fight with Bobby Green, there's a case to be made that he did lose that first round to Bobby Green, and when he's chasing Bobby Green around the ring, like in a fight that ultimately goes to decision, that could have a large impact on the judge's thoughts. You chase the guy around a ring like this, especially when Bobby Green at that point in the fight was leading on the scorecards, leading, in the amount of punches and strikes thrown. I could see how that could sway. I mean, granted, Rafael Fiziev then won convincingly the next two rounds and ultimately won the fight. I'm not attesting that Bobby Green actually won the fight, but that initial round, Rafael Fiziev didn't come out and didn't look as good as he did compared to the other two rounds. And I think Brad Riddell is going to be a little bit more of a smothering presence.
So I will say this, if the dog pick going in is for this fight to not go the distance, right? So if the plus money is fight not to go the distance, I'll stake a little bit on it just because one of these guys could get chin. They're both such great stand-up fighters. If the money pick is for the fight to go the distance, I'll take that by a nice chunk because more likely than not, these two guys are going to be able to stand up and just swing at each other for 3 whole rounds.
Taking the money pick, you don't because you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, anything could happen, and it's more so. I think the more likely outcome is that this fight does go to decision. But if it's for it to not go to decision, there's still a high chance that because both of these guys are so skilled in the stand-up realm that there's a high chance that somebody does still get caught. I think if that's the case, it's more likely than not Rafael Fiziev. But this fight goes the distance. I do like Rafael to win it. I think he's a guy that's consistently improving. Not to say that Brad Riddell is not, but guys, this is a fight to sit in front of. I was on the phone with somebody before. I said if you're going to watch any of these fights this upcoming weekend, at least watch the co-main and the main event, which we're going to talk about now, because this is also another really, really hard fight to pick. We've got Jose Aldo versus Rob Font. I'm going with Jose Aldo here. And I saw a pretty recent video of him talking about how when he started training with the Brazilian Navy boys that brought back his love of, boxing and MMA. But more so than that, his hand speed has gotten incredible. His last fight against Pedro Munoz, this guy is throwing like a flurry of punches, like unseen. It's insane how much he's improved. Even at, how old is he now? I know he
He's
seems
only
old.
35. I mean, granted,
Yeah,
he's going to be the older fighter in this fight, but not by much, man. He's 1 year older than Rob Font, and he's less than a year.
Yeah, he seems old just because of like his longevity here and how long he's been around. But this is a crafty guy he's been here for a while. He's moved weight classes and he's done things intelligently, that suit him better for the longevity of his career. And I just think that it's insane to see how much he's improving over time. Now, Rob Font did get that very clear decision win over Cody Garbrandt. Like there was no questioning that whatsoever. Nobody was robbed in that one. But like you said, there's levels to this. And this is a true test for Rob Font to see if he's one of those next guys up, one of those next contenders. This is the number 4 and the number 5 guys fighting right now. And it's one of those things where like it's no question that Jose Aldo could go on and fight for the belt, at some point down the road. But this is really a test for Rob Font. And Aldo is the guy that they're putting in front of him to see if he can make it to that next stage. And I don't think he's going to get through Aldo. I don't think it's going to be a finished fight, but if it is, it's because of that boxing game that Jose Aldo has now. Like it's incredible, and it's so much fun to see how much he's improving over the years. His hand speed, like I said, it's insane now. And this is a guy who was on a little bit of a skid there, and now he's on a 2-fight win streak. I think he makes it 3 on Saturday. What do you think?
Well, his skid is Alexander Volkanovski, split decision to Marlon Moraes, and then a TKO loss to Peter Yan, who should be the champion.
Yeah, a skid in terms of just that's what you call a losing streak in the UFC. But those are 3 of the best fighters in that division. You could make a case that he beat Marlon Moraes for sure, but I don't think it's going to be questionable on Saturday who wins this fight. Like I think if it goes to decision, it's going to be a very clear Jose Aldo win. He's getting so much better with every single fight.
Well, and here's the thing. I think it does go to decision because I don't see Rob Font as knocking out Jose Aldo. Rob Font doesn't really knock guys out traditionally. He beat the shit out of Cody Garbrandt essentially and still didn't knock him out. It's just, it's like Colby Covington. It's just not that style. It's a smothering style. But Jose Aldo, he uses his legs a lot more than Rob Font does. And I think because Rob Font's a little bit taller, he has a little bit more of an exposed body. He only has a 1.5 inch reach advantage. So that's not all of that much for someone who's crafty and, going to be using the leg kicks and probably has a little bit longer of a leg reach too, Jose Aldo may have. So for that reason, I think Jose Aldo, he's been there. He's been around the block. He knows how to fight. He's fought out of a bunch of different weight classes. He's really seemed to hit his stride here at 135 pounds. He's not that much older, but he's much more experienced, especially at this level. I think he's going to work in the kicks. I think he's going to utilize that hand speed, like you said. I think Rob Font's going to have some success too. I think he's going to pump out that jab like he always does. I think, he's definitely going to be able to lay some punches on Jose Aldo because, to a certain extent, guys are aging, but I just see Jose Aldo as utilizing a little bit more of the mixed martial arts aspect of fighting. And I think he's going to get it done over Rob Font. I think it's going to be a decision. And I think Jose Aldo is going to win. Not to be saying that Rob Font doesn't deserve to be in the top 5. I think he absolutely does. I just think at this point in time, Jose Aldo is going to take it. And Jose Aldo has looked phenomenal in his last few fights. He's also fighting the decisions there as well. So, I think there's every reason to believe that this is going to be a decision. And the other thing you want to remember about Rob Font, he has there's not going to be too much of a reach advantage here. In his last fight against Cody Garbrandt, he had a 5-inch reach advantage. In his fight before that against Marlon Moraes, he had a 6-inch reach advantage. So having that type of reach advantage with a stiff jab, of course you're going to win those fights in dominant fashion. Let's see how that holds up against the guy who's a little bit more his size and who's just as crafty on the feet and with their legs.
Yeah, Jose Aldo's head movement is obviously the reach advantage plays a big part. His head movement's too good to get hit by a straight jab, I feel like at this point, just like consistently over and over again. Sure, he'll get caught with a few. You did mention something that I meant to bring up. and it's a meme. I don't know how accurate it was, but it said, how is it that Stipe Miocic, for anybody unfamiliar, is significantly taller than Aldo, but Aldo has more of a leg reach? Definitely see Aldo like using those first 2-3 rounds to just chop away at Rob Font's legs, put him off balance, and really just at that point take advantage of the boxing, because Rob Font, he's not going to be able to put any weight on that front leg after a while, and that straight jab combined with Jose Aldo's head movement, that front leg is chopped up. He's not going to be able to use it at all. So I really like Aldo to win here. And we didn't mention the lines. I'm just going to look at them real quick, curious how close they are. Okay.
I think you can get Aldo for plus money.
Yeah, he's plus money right now. I might.
Here's the nuts thing. Think about it like this. Aldo is like the perfect frame for a fighter. He's got like a perfectly regular to long reach and extremely long legs, like and a small torso by comparison. So you're not giving up much body. You don't have to block the body. You got these long limbs that you can keep people in front of you. You're a kickboxer with a competent ground game. Like, yeah, he's gonna do well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. We'll run through our picks one last time. I really like that Aldo pick there. So I have Alex Morono. I'm tailing you on Azamat Murzakanov. And I have Dushko Todorovic. I've got Chris Curtis, Jimmy Crute, Clay Guida, Rafael Fiziev, and Jose Aldo.
I am taking Alex Morono, Azamat Murzakanov. I am taking Jake Matthews over Jeremiah Wells. I know we didn't talk about it. Also taking Todorovic. I am taking Bam Bam Barbarena over Darian Weeks. Taking Brendan Allen over Chris Curtis. Jimmy Crute, Clay Guida, Brad Riddell, Jose Aldo.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Darian Weeks. It's still so new to this card that, but whatever. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Tom, thank you for joining me. Really appreciate you as always. Stay tuned for next week, because next week we have the December 11th card, UFC 269, I believe, which is going to be absolutely electric. Main event, Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. So check that out. We're going to be continuing to collaborate, especially on that episode, with some of our friends over at Men of Order. Tom's got stuff going up all the time at Overtime Heroics. And then, just keep an eye on our website, pickandwinners.org. And, special shout out to the rest of our team as well. So.
Absolutely. We got all of our Instagrams, Twitters, follow, all that stuff. We got it in the description. So go give us a follow, show us some love. And like you were talking about that card next week, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, that's your main event. But your co-main event, Amanda Nunes back in action against Juliana Pena. Kai Kara France, Cody Garbrandt. That's going to be a great fight. Cody Garbrandt, debuting at 125. Sean O'Malley, Julian Paiva at 135 is going to be great to see Sugar Sean back in action. Santiago Ponzinibbio and Jeff Neal, both guys, they've turned a corner. Santiago Ponzinibbio coming back after a really long layoff. Jillian Robertson's back in action on that card. We got Randy Costa on that card. Just a ton of good fights. Ryan Hall is back, and he's fighting against Derek Minner. That's going to be another card. Guess who also is on that card? Our friend Dominic Cruz, and he's fighting Pedro Munoz. So Dan 50K Ige also on that card. Last time we saw him, he was main eventing a fight night. Now he's the fifth fight in. Kicking off, we have Tai Tuivasa, Shui Tuivasa, as they call him. So, hey, there's a great fight next week. A ton of great fights. Miranda Maverick is also on the card. I'm talking too fast for even me. Make sure you tune in. That's going to be a great fight. I may even buy it.
Yeah, probably. Got the video here.
Comment, subscribe.
See ya.